Welcome to my voiceover world. Hello.
Hello.
Hey there, how you doing?
Doing great. How you doing?
Really, really good. We're in different locations today. Valerie's at our Arrowhead space, and I'm down at PCB in LA. So sorry, we're not in the same room together.
Don't worry. It's okay. It's
We'll
how
just
it is,
pretend.
but I know. But thanks for willing to do this, you two.
Yeah,
Absolutely, our
absolutely.
pleasure.
Sorry it took a little while to coordinate. It's a little crazy with our schedules right now.
Yeah, of course. It's it's part of it happens a lot with a lot of actors that I've been meeting over for 4 years, so that's something I like to tell to the two of you there. But before that, just wanted to let you know that seeing you two together here reminded me of a few months ago when I met a couple like you who are voice actors and currently became voice directors themselves.
Who is that?
Oh, you know them, and you've cast them a lot in a lot of projects, but the name of those people are Grant and Jessica G. George.
Of course.
Right,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes, they've been they became my biggest supporters recently. And you want to know the truth?
Yeah.
That their sons are big fans of my YouTube channel, and that one of
Oh,
them is
super cool.
autistic like me, which autism is a very good thing, a unique ability to help other people right there. Like, remember that day when I made that collage for you, Valerie, and you
Uh-huh.
keep mentioning it? It was all part of helping you, making sure you feel recognized, just like I've done it for others for about 4 years.
And we appreciate it so much. I know everybody
That's
in the community appreciates it. It's really cool.
It's what
yeah,
I
that's cool.
always do, always. But anyway, I have many questions I've been wanting to ask you.
Okay, let's do it.
You and Valerie have been part of many projects, so I like to ask this. How does it feel about being part of many projects that you and Keith have been doing?
Being part of them as far as the acting or the directing or both?
Both, by all means.
Both. Okay. Um, I love working on both sides of the microphone, and I feel that being an actor really informs what I do as a director, and being a director really informs what I do as an actor. So I feel like they work together really well. We have been so blessed to have an amazing, almost 30-year career in the game industry. I guess 30 years already, almost 31. And just get to work on so many of the projects, that we helped sort of build from obscure projects no one knew about, like back at the first, we were working on the first Call of Duties, and we were working on, the very first Persona 2, the first one that was localized. And we've been working on that series for 25 years. And then more recently, helping to bring the Yakuza series back and give that a really good dub. And so many of the different titles, the Trails series, all these other things that we've gone, Disgaea, all the things we kind of helped get to see from their infancy and from the beginning and help grow them into the big properties that they are now. It's been a really amazing experience for us.
I see. So that's the very good thing about it, which leads me to the most important question. For the two of you, what really inspired you to pursue voice acting and come up with the creation of PCB Productions? And what is the best decision you have made so far that excelled into this success that you have done? For the two
Marrying
of you
that
here.
man. Marrying that man right there. That was the best decision.
The best decision is having a partner in all of this, for sure. That is hands down the best thing we've ever done. Uh, I think for us, it's been a natural growth and evolution of our careers. We both started in different aspects. Valerie was acting and modeling at a young age, and I was starting in music. And we both kind of came together with our love of just the work that we do. And obviously that's a big, strong foundation in our marriage is that we work together. We have an amazing family together, and we've had the ability to work from home and see our kids grow up. And so that was something, an evolution of how we just wanted to live our lives, where even though we're working on these big franchises, we wanted to be close to our family and our kids. And so that was sort of like the most important thing, I think, from the beginning. And as a musician, I was touring and doing different types of projects that would have to be on the road. And when I was working at Virgin Electronic Arts, I'd have to go into the studios. And so the creation of PCB was really to create a creative hub so we could do all of that in-house. We could have our studios, we could have our staff, we could have all the celebrities there. Valerie and I could work together and still spend quality time together with our family. And that came with challenges too. You know, we had a fire here that wiped us out about 10, 12 years ago, and that was devastating because all of our music, all of our servers, all of our client stuff, all of our equipment, all of
25
our
years of work was just gone.
yeah. And so that was a real challenge for us because, now not only was our work and all of the stuff that we'd created gone, our facilities were gone, and where we lived was gone. And so we had to rebuild. And we were traveling at the time when the fire happened. So, we came back to all this devastation. And Valerie, I just remember Valerie turning to me and she said, what are we going to do? And I just looked at her. I said, well, we're just going to rebuild it and build it bigger and better. And that's what we've done. And so I think all these things are kind of an evolution of things. And, as a result of that, I stopped writing as much music. It was the fire was in our music vault and our sound libraries and our music masters and our equipment. Everything was destroyed. So even though we were able to rebuild our facilities, all of that foundational work we did was gone. So we had to kind of start over, and we did. And that pushed us more into directing, I think. And so Valerie being an actor, and I was already doing a lot of projects. We were in the middle of, I think, Modern Warfare 2 at the time. So it just pushed us more, I think, into the directing side and a little less of the creative services of doing music and sound that we were doing. And even though we still do a fair amount of that, that's become more on our personal projects. So now you're seeing our graphic novels and motion pictures and animated movies from our PCB entertainment side, and our client work is more of directing and working with voice actors and then educating everyone.
I see. So that's what leads to the success of this. Because all I
Partnership.
know, course. All I know is that I've gone to know about this studios here because of Chris J. Alex, who I got to meet with 1 year ago. A very cool guy who he and I
Yeah,
have been talking to each other a lot. He's actually been very supportive. And because of him, I recognize you and everyone else's projects right there. That led to me discovering PCB.
because you work hard. Absolutely. Everything people love to see the successes and think, oh, that was so easy. It was handed to them. And people often forget the hard work that's behind successful people and what they do. That it's not just, oh, look, I instantly stumbled into this one project and it blew up and now I'm huge. There's always a lot of hard work that goes into everything before that. There's a lot of extra hours. I mean, with our company, people see the finished product, but they don't see the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours behind the scenes of even just things like setting up meetings with the clients and getting the contracts negotiated and taking care of all that kind of thing. So people tend to discount the hard work that people put in to be successful, but it really is all about hard work.
And we have a staff behind us too. We've got amazing engineers
We could
and
not do it without our staff. There's no
yeah.
way.
And when Val and I started, it was just us, and we really were overwhelmed with the fact that, the success and all the projects we were doing is phenomenal. But then when additional projects come in and you have to deal with the amount of content that we're dealing with in video games, it is a mountain of work. And so it really is a team effort. And people see us as directors and what we've done with PCB, but our staff is amazing. And we've had such great people working with us over the years to help make that possible.
That's a
Teamwork.
good thing to hear from you, and I'm glad you say that. But now, without further ado, the questions I'm about to ask will, some of them will be together and some will be separate. So I'll
Okay.
start with together first. But for the two of you, what was it like for you directing the entire Persona series, including the recent Persona 3 Reload? And what was it like to just do a lot of bringing a lot of good people to do these characters? For what purpose?
I think getting to work on Persona, like I said, we started on Persona 25, 26 years ago now. Well, longer than that now. It's been about 31 since we did the very first one, Persona 2. And we did that dub, and really nobody knew what it was. And it's been really interesting to work on it and see the property grow and really get to, work on the casting and hand picking those casts and just helping to sculpt what it became and what it has become. And I was really excited to get to go back and do P3 Reload because Keith directed the first P3. And I think out of all of them, I think P3 was our favorite storyline. So to get to go back and kind of recreate that and definitely pay homage to the original series because the original version of it was amazing. But it was really nice to get to go back in and sort of handpick my cast for it and do it, new and fresh and in a different way, which was really neat.
Oh, I see. So
Keith.
that's what you like about doing that. Well, to put it plainly, I got to know about Persona since the fifth one, actually. And and you want to know the best part is? I got to meet some of the people of the fifth Persona series, and I even got to meet some of the people of either in Reload or in other stuff. Just know that what I am saying is just that I became something else there. That
Yes, absolutely. Keith, what's your take on that?
I mean, the Persona franchise has been such an amazing evolution from Persona 2. It was one of the first projects we did after I left from Virgin Electronic Arts. And here we were working on doing a tremendous amount of dubbing and anime shows and early animation that was coming out in addition to all the stuff we were doing in video games. And so Persona 2 being the first project that we were doing with Atlas at the time, it was really a learning sort of opportunity for both Atlas and for us because we were taking these new digital recording techniques we were doing in Pro Tools and early digital recording systems and dealing with these big, concepts. And even though it wasn't a very big game, the ideas and the translations were really challenging to do. And so it helped us develop new production methods and techniques. And a lot of things you see in the video game industry right now, like the way that the scripts are organized, the way the recording takes are done, methods like echo repeat and all these other things all came out of our work on these games where we were developing techniques to work with the developers to take not only their story concepts but their production methods and be able to get actors to work on them and understand how to do something that's a little bit different than dubbing an anime or doing a television show. And so Persona really grew. And like Valerie said, like when we got after Persona 2, and then we ended up doing Persona 3, and there was this unbelievable evolution of the game and the animation and the story, and even the opening cinematic, which was really like groundbreaking for its time. So to be part of that was really, I don't think you really realized the significance of the time. You just loved the stories and the characters and the work we were doing. And now looking back after, 25 years of working on these games on the franchise, and the fan base that's there, it's been nice because we really had a strong hand in not only the way it was recorded and made, but like Valerie said, like working with these actors and discovering these actors and working on the performances and help crafting who and how those characters would evolve. And we're very proud of this franchise of all of them. I think that's the one that the fans love the most.
hmm. Well, that's a good thing to hear from you, you know? Because all I know is that you, my friend, alongside Valerie, did a good job. No,
Thank
you
you.
did a splendid job doing the entire Persona franchise. And one time, they even did a crossover with Blaze Blue, which you
Yeah.
yourself were involved in it. Which, speaking of that, I do like to ask you two the questions separately, so I'll start with you, Valerie, since it's ladies first. So, to put it plainly, how does it feel about stepping into the role of Naoto Shigagani in Persona 4 and Blaze Blue? What do you love most about voicing her in the entire franchise?
Oh, stepping into Naoto was really an honor because it's been voiced by myself and then two other amazing, stellar actresses. But getting to voice her, I think the thing that I love about Naoto is the impact that she makes. One of the very first conventions I went to, there was a cosplayer dressed as Naoto. And I talked to her and I said, I'm the voice of Naoto in, this game. And she just started crying. And I was like, are you okay? And she said to me, it's the first time I've ever felt seen and represented by a character. And that was so powerful to me. I realized how much of an impact a character in a game, a character in a show, a character in a TV series, a film can make on people who don't feel seen or don't feel, I don't know, mainstream um, character. They don't feel like they see a lot of what they have in themselves portrayed in a character. And it was such a beautiful, powerful moment. Her name happens to be Valerie. So, hi, Valerie, if you're watching this. Um, and she's a complete sweetheart. And it really just changed, I don't know, the emotional impact of voice and character. It's not just some character in a video game that whatever, that what we do really has impact on people's lives. And it really does affect people personally. And that was, I mean, to me, that was one of the most beautiful things. That was the most beautiful gift she could have given me, was telling me that.
See, so that's what you like about voicing that character. Because all I know is that you have been voicing her since, what was the year again? Oh, right. If I'm not mistaken, 2014, I presume.
That
But,
sounds about right. Yeah.
oh, good. I'm just making sure. Because all I know is that the two other voice actresses you were gonna say about are Mary Elizabeth McGlann and that other one. I'm trying to get her name right, but it doesn't matter. But you be doing that character was just something else right there. That's what I
Thank you.
love about your performance, just by opening your heart to who you really are. So
Thank
that's
you.
something I wanted to tell you.
I think that's kind of the theme of Persona, right? It's opening your heart to who you really are.
Exactly.
That's exactly
As
it.
As for you, Keith, I like to ask you this about that game that you voice directed since 2012 by the name of Asura's Wrath. What was it like voice directing the entire video game?
Asura's Wrath was an amazing project. We've had a great relationship with Capcom and done a lot of games with them. And when they came to us with Asura, not only was the concept just so groundbreaking, a character that's fighting gods, but also from a technical standpoint, is the game was being recorded in Japan simultaneously as the English, but they were ahead of us, so they wanted to make sure that the length of the dialogue was identical, so their animators didn't have to do two versions of the animation. And so what that meant was that not only did we have to follow all the performances and the timings and the lengths of the Japanese actors that were recording just ahead of us, but the size and the scope of the game was so big that you had Asura who was challenging gods, and he had to scream at the same length that the Japanese actor was doing. And if you've seen the game and if you've played the game, he's not just doing a half second or 1 second yell or battle cry. Some of his cries were like 12, 15, 17 seconds long, and they had to match the length. And from the stories we heard, that the Japanese actor, when he was recording the dialogue, he passed out in the recording studio 3 or 4 times because of the vocal stress that was there.
That's
So we
giving it your
were,
all in a performance.
yes, and we were terrified of this because we were like, we know how vocally stressful games can be. And having worked on Call of Duty and a lot of other franchises, we knew that like asking an actor to do that much screaming even though creatively that was part of his character and part of the world and needed to be done because he's fighting characters that are the size of planets and mountains and gigantic beasts. So we really had to spend a lot of time just figuring out who Asura was going to be because he had to be a great actor, he had to be technically trained, and he had to be able to scream. And at the time, that came down to one actor, and that was Liam O'Brien. And I had to take Liam aside, and we talked to him for a long time. And we were like, "Hey, the Japanese actor has passed out multiple times recording this role, and you have to match his length and timing and intensity plus all your other acting." So it was a challenging thing, and he was up to the task, and I think he did an amazing job. And
Absolutely.
still one of our favorite games. And when we teach, because we teach a lot of technical acting for actors and how to get into the industry and some techniques that we've used, and we use Asura as an example of sort of the extreme of what you may be asked to do as a voice actor. And I think we did, hopefully, I think the audience would agree that I think that we kind of stepped up to that challenge and Liam did an amazing job.
I
Absolutely, he
see.
did.
So that's what you like about doing that game. Because all I know is that you bringing along a lot of cast such as Liam, Robin, and Kari and others, and even Amari Williams. So it's a very good thing right there. Plus, there is this one time that I did a video about it, like a few years ago, when I did that video for Twitter, and you even commented the photo of yourself on my post that I did. And and that's something I remembered. And that's the reason why I wanted to talk this to you. That way you understand that you mentioned my video on my Twitter post. So that's why I respect your work for this. So that's something I want to express to you. Now, as
Love
for
it.
you, Valerie, I like to
Yes.
ask you this. Your
Okay.
character Talia Gladys in Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Destiny must be a very huge legendary character, right? So let me ask you
Yes.
this. What made that role so special to you? For what reason?
So for that role, and I'm so glad you know of that role because we recorded it and it just seemed to kind of disappear, and most people aren't super familiar with the reboot on Gundam Seed. Um, Talia was really fun because Stephanie Shea, who was the director and the casting director on it, came to me. Well, Stephanie did some direction, and then I know that Carrie Kiernan did the voice direction. But Stephanie came to me and she said, "We have this audition, and I really need you to read for it." And I was like, "Okay." And I got the audition, and it's a female ship commander. Like she's in charge, she runs things. And I was like, "This is just me. It's what I do." And Stephanie told me later, she's like, I kept going back to the client and they would try out somebody and it wouldn't quite work out. And she would say, "Can we just bring Val in, please? Can we just bring Val in, please? This is so her." And so I appreciate Stephanie just kind of having my back on that one. And we went in and did it. And Carrie Kieran and I had an absolute blast recording that character. And she was so much me that we got to the point where I wouldn't even preview the lines with the video before we would say them because she was so much me. She had my cadence, she had my projections, she had everything that I do naturally that we weren't even previewing the lines. We were just rolling straight into them and just like getting them done like really quickly. But I loved her because she was in charge. She ran this whole ship, but she wasn't cold. She wasn't, she had the whole backstory. She had that whole personal story about her child and, the love of her life. And so she had like a neat backstory that we got to go into, but then you also got to see her just running the ship and just being a complete badass and commanding and taking charge. And I loved that about her. I love that she had two sides to her.
I see. So that's what you love about voicing that character.
Yeah.
Because all I know is that I've got to know about Mobile Suit Gundam Seed because of Chris J. Alex. Because of
Yes.
him, I recognized your talent and right there. And
Thank you.
that Carrie Carnan and Stephanie Shea did a good job bringing you right there.
Oh, thank you.
So,
That's amazing. Amazing.
indeed. And that's something I wanted to tell this to you about, just like many others. So yeah. But now, as for you, Keith, I like to ask you this. What was the most awesome thing when you got to voice direct for Darksiders? And what is so awesome about directing the entire series? For what purpose in mind?
I love Darksiders for so many reasons. Not only because of Joe Madeira and Hayden Dalton and the whole team we got to work with there. Amazing guys, a great history in the game industry and in comic books. I had created a graphic novel, my first book called Ascend, which is a huge book that's a war between heaven and hell and these angels that are caught up in this thing called the Purgatory Wars. And the book was very successful and was on Image Comics.
It's
And
behind you on
and
your
it is
table.
it actually was here behind me. And the book was so successful that Hayden and Joe approached me and they said, "We loved what you did on Ascend, and we have a story that we're creating that is very much in the same world, and we think you would be amazing to direct this." And so I was very honored by that. And you can see from Darksiders, it definitely takes place in the same space that's there. And so we had a great experience working on Darksiders 1 and Darksiders 2. And then recently we did another Darksiders expansion on Genesis. And it was such an honor to work on that because we were able to bring in spectacular voice actors. People like Liam O'Brien came back, but we had Michael Wincott. And then we started to bring in people like Vernon Wells, who I was an amazing fan of because I grew up watching The Road Warrior. And Vernon was just a spectacular actor who had done all sorts of on-camera appearances and didn't have a lot of voice acting experience. And I had worked with him on Spider-Man and a few other things. So I was able to bring in Vernon and other friends to be able to do these big, powerful voices on Darksiders. And I remember I was signing autographs at a convention, and there was a an older there was a father and a son, and the father came over to me, and he was talking about my the films I was doing and other projects we were doing and my music background, and his son was totally tuned out, didn't know anything about it. And we was talking to Vernon, and he saw Vernon, and Vernon was signing with me, and he started talking about the Road Warrior and how much he loved it. And his son had no idea, had never seen Road Warrior, didn't know who Vernon was, and his son was completely tuned out. So the father asked Vernon, he said, "Well, what are you working on right now?" And he said, "Oh, I'm actually working on this video game called Darksiders with Keith." And suddenly the son perked up and he goes, "You're working on Darksiders? I love Darksiders." And all of a sudden the father had no idea what he was talking about and the son was into it. And Vernon looked at me and just smiled because here was an actor who had worked in the 80s and 90s and felt that like his career wasn't being recognized by the newer generation. And then with games like Darksiders, it completely changed his career and his idea of being able to work as a voice actor. So I loved that franchise and love working with those guys. In fact, I just texted with Joe yesterday and continue to work with those guys in the game industry in different capacities. And I think Darksiders really changed a lot of people's perceptions of games in that format and style, and bringing that level of production and voice acting was spectacular.
That's a very good thing to hear from you, because all I know is that I've gone to know about Darksiders and the entire cast of it. And one time I did a video of Darksiders Genesis and turns out to be quite a huge cast you brought in there, and it's quite very unique in a way. So that's something I like to say to you. But I have a few last questions, but I'd just like to do one more of it due to the time expansion right there. But for the two of you here, what was it like voice directing the entire The Legend of Heroes series?
Oh, Trails of Cold Steel is just such a great series, and it has a soft spot in my heart. It was a very complicated series to cast because it goes on for so many different games that we had to be really careful not to cast people in two roles who would then come back and talk to themselves later on. So Leona, one of the producers on it, is like a walking encyclopedia of trails and was amazing at helping us to do that. But it was really challenging to cast as many people as we did. And keep the quality and look towards future games as we cast it to make sure that, if we were casting someone who was going to come back as a character who would battle a lot, that we cast somebody who could handle the battle sounds, when we came back for the next game. It's been a wonderful series. I love how strong they wrote the female characters in it. It was really nice because when we did a anime expo panel on it once, and the creator was there, and I got to tell him, I'm like, I love that you created all these strong female characters that all, work together. And I just love it. And I love Aurelia. Again, I love, she's just a strong female character. She's in charge of all these, kids. She's the principal of the school, but she's also got a lot of heart. And I always love when someone can balance out a strong female character and not just make her kind of large and in charge, but also give her a soft side and give her some emotions and a motherly side to her as well. Because I think that someone being in charge comes from a space of caring and wanting things to be done well. And so I think that it's nice when you see a character that's written with that balance in it. But we had a lot of fun bringing that series to life and really making sure that casting was perfect.
See, so that's what you like about directing the entire series. Because all I know is that you being part of it, Valerie, was a very cool thing, being a character
It
while directing at the same time. And
it
you, Keith,
was really cool.
and as for you, Keith, you directing the entire series was a very splendid job there. Especially when you got to bring a lot of good people there. Because right now, there's like, how do I say this? Like, they're like announcing the more games of the Legend of Heroes and something like that. And that, boy, it is such a marvelous franchise since 2019, if I'm not mistaken. But still, it's all part of the process to make things look awesome in a way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Valerie and I have had a great opportunity to work together and also hand projects back and forth. So sometimes when I was working on the Jumpstart series at the very beginning, I was also directing Call of Duty at the same time. So I'm doing children's educational software, and then I'm doing, World War II battle chatter.
We
And
jokingly say in the mornings he was doing RPG, and in the evenings he was doing RPG. So we have a dichotomy of projects there,
And so
and it's
that's
great
how
because
Valerie and I started to share a lot of projects together because for me, mentally and focusing wise, even though we both work on a tremendous amount of projects together, sometimes it's more appropriate to have one of us take on a franchise and do that. So with things like Persona and Trails and Jumpstart and a lot of these franchises, even though people had known me initially as the voice director, I was like, here you have Valerie, who's an amazing actor, and she is amazing working with talent and scripts and production. And like we said earlier, with an amazing staff behind us, and also the writing teams, people like Leona or the guys at Atlas or some of these production companies that we've worked with have really hardworking localization teams and writers that are adapting these scripts from these big franchises. And Valerie just was really like a fish to water. She just like instantly jumped in, understood the characters, understood where it needed to be. She had a great grasp of the technology and obviously a great relationship with the actors. And so we've been kind of sharing a lot of these projects back and forth over the years and things like Persona 3, which I loved originally and was telling her about it. And then as she got involved on Persona 5 and Golden and then directing Persona 3 Reload. But then for me to come back and then still work on The Promise and us kind of share a lot of the sessions back and forth was nice because we both had our own unique directing styles to kind of touch these franchises and help work with the actors to kind of evolve those performances.
I see. That's a good thing to hear from you. Well, you two, it's such an honor to finally have you right here, and that you two are just wonderful people, and that
thank you.
seeing you
Thank you.
two here is just something else.
Well, thank
Well,
you for having us.
Yes, we love being here.
of course. And that's why your work will always be remembered. As long as I'm around, everything will be awesome for you too. And that's the reason why that I will work with you when the time comes.
Absolutely.
Well,
Hard
you
work
two,
always pays off.
I'll see. I look forward to working with you, and I'll be seeing you around through social media, my friends.
Sounds great.
All right. Thanks for having us. Take care.
You
Thanks,
too.
Sebastian. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Want to keep up with my journey? Follow me on social media for more updates, behind the scenes moments, and all the fun along the way.